Welcome back to the Tracy Take. I'm Tyler here with my brother Ryan, and today we are breaking down the Cincinnati Bengals selections from our 7-round mock draft. Yes, Ryan and I, we did all 250-something picks, and these are going to be the Bengals selections. But before we get into that, be sure to ring that bell to get notified when we create more Bengals content. We have other Bengals-specific mock drafts of 3-round, 7-round mock drafts leading up all the way to the 2024 NFL Draft. Also, as well, if you like our content and you want to see us make more Bengals videos, be sure to subscribe. It's the easiest way to help us grow our channel. We're trying to get 3,000 by the end of the combine. So quickly, just to orient you here real quickly on what you're seeing on the screen, we wanted to include some context on what other players the Bengals skipped on instead of taking J.C. Latham here. So you'll see some of the players picked right after them, but also then, too, some other key players we feel they could take at the 18th spot and who were available. So here we went with J.C. Latham. I feel like Bengals taking offensive line, it just even for the rest of our lives, is just going to be such a we could see them taking offensive line. It's just with how awful that offensive line was a couple years ago, and they are improving, but it's almost like there's still that bad taste in your mouth. I was like, no, we just need to make sure that Joe Burrow stays up. And I almost think it's. And maybe I'm wrong in this, Ryan, but maybe it's almost a little bit more uniquely important just because with today's modern day quarterback, Joe Burrow is super athletic relative to the average human. But if you go look at modern day QBs now, he is on the slower end. He's more of that traditional pocket passer type, which improves, which is more important on why than I think you need to have a bolstered offensive line in front of him.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you look at the weak spot on this offensive line, I think it's definitely that right side. They just invested in Orlando Brown Jr. last year. They also have Ted Karras as well on the left side. And then Ted Karras also plays center, so he can play left guard or center. And then on that right side, they had Jonah Williams, but he is most likely going to be leaving in free agency because he is done playing right tackle. He is unhappy at that spot, and he wants to go somewhere where he can be a true left tackle. I mean, and I don't blame him. He's going to get the most amount of money at left tackle. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see where he ends up. But that does mean that Cincinnati has a hole in that offensive line. I think you look at other holes on this team, and like even this secondary, they invested a lot of young players into that last year. And I think going and getting a young right tackle specifically here in the draft, I think would be fantastic. As a player, J.C. Latham is very young, very talented. To me, I think he needs to get the mental reps in because I think you look at a lot of his mistakes on tape and he's just mentally not prepared for the play at that point. Everything physically is always fine when he's there mentally. And he actually very rarely makes any mistakes physically. Like it's not a lack of footwork or a lack of hand placement. It's just like, for example, the Michigan play, that 4th down at the very end of the game, last play of the game, J.C. Latham just gets completely obliterated, but he's not even looking. He's looking at the ball when it's snapped. He's not even looking at the edge rusher when the ball's snapped. It's just like that mental lapse puts him in a bad spot. So I really like this player here. A few other potential options. I did see they just tagged T. Higgins, I believe, yesterday. But at the time of this coming out, it would have been last week. But they did tag T. Higgins. There is still potential that they trade him and acquire more draft capital. But they could go and get a guy like Cameron Kitchens, a experienced safety. Potential T. Higgins replacement could be Brian Thomas Jr. There as well. And then another offensive lineman that's going to have a little bit more versatility is going to be Troy Fautanu. He can kind of play all over the offensive line wherever you need him to. So
but no, it's. I think now, too, it's shaping up now with them getting T. Higgins. I think they're going to go more offensive line or maybe even go a little bit more aggressive and go get another skill position player just at a different position. So let's move on, though, now to their next pick here. Have them addressing the defense tackle spot with Chris Jenkins here out of Michigan. Great selection here, especially then, too, with DJ Reader unfortunately having a pretty devastating leg injury late in the season and him becoming a free agent. Even with that being said, I think this is going to be a position that they go after pretty heavily, just helping out Sam Hubbard, Trey Hendrickson. They did end up getting Myles Murphy last year in the draft. So they have good edge rushers on the outside, and they want to kind of maintain that consistency and keep developing that defensive interior. And as we've seen here now, if you have a strong defensive line, it will make up for weaknesses in the secondary of defenses as well. And not saying that the Bengals have weaknesses in the secondary. I think they have a younger secondary group with a lot of upside. But it's just If you can have a great defensive line, normally it means at minimum you're going to have an average defense in the NFL.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Chris Jenkins definitely going to be a rotational player probably in his first year. But I think that's what the Bengals will need is a guy that can come in maybe some more running down situations and just provide some beef in the middle there, make things a little bit harder on offensive line. Another option, if they do decide to go with a wide receiver or a corner or a safety in the first round, I've learned the proper pronunciation for this name, but it's Karan Amegdije is the proper pronunciation. The offensive tackle from Yale is here. Very athletic. Xavier Worthy was on the board at this point if they don't take that wide receiver in the first round and they want to address the offense early on. And then Javon Bullard actually is kind of a Jesse Bates style free safety. He's going to have good speed. He comes downhill really well. So Ohio fans, Ohio people probably know him very well as the guy that delivered the hit on Marvin Harrison Jr. So let's go ahead and get to the third overall pick here. And this is where we have them addressing the wide receiver position. Tyler Boyd is a free agent and is, I would say, not likely to return. There is a possibility that he will, but I think you go and you get like an immediate replacement here with Ricky Pearsall. Just Ricky Pearsall is a very solid, do good possession receiver. He's not the most explosive guy. He's not slow by any means. He has really consistent hands. He runs really good routes. And again, he just is going to be a do good kind of like solid wide receiver 3 in this offense. And I really think as that kind of possession guy, he would thrive in a system like this.
Well, especially too with how much attention is going to be given to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and then if they end up splashing in the tight end position as well. So a guy like him, it's kind of, we were making the joke about Jordan Whittington with Texas. It's like he just needs to be the other guy. It just needs to be the other guy. Does not need to be crazy. Probably won't get too many Pro Bowls, but he can have a good, consistent career. Being the third receiver on the Cincinnati Bengals team. And with what they've done now, addressing the offensive line and then now addressing the defensive line as well, their skill position players wise, I would match them up with nearly anybody in the league. So let's wrap this up here now with their day 3 picks. They have several day 3 picks. We do address the secondary here with Jarvis Brownlee Jr. He did have a good, I would say, senior day kind of camp overall, and he's the one that had the interception also. Then Ben Sinnott, Isaiah Adams as well here in the 5th round, addressing the offensive line and skill position players as well. Tight end is a position I think that they could be more aggressive in. Go check out my most recent mock draft as well, because I made a move here that got them a very favorable tight end. I would say, just because I think that's a position that it's not like nothing against the tight ends that they've had in the past. Like Hayden Hurst was their best tight end that they've had in recent memory. But with how effective the skill position players are, that if you had, everybody's looking for Sam Laporta now. That big tight end that can run a 4.5, that can just take up the middle of the field. That just opens up so many things on the offense. And so I think a guy like Ben Sinnott, or they want to address tight end later on in the draft, I think it's something that they absolutely could do.
Yeah, and Ben Sinnott, I think, is a guy that can address some of those tight end needs. He's not obviously going to be Brock Bowers, but a good value here, I think, on day 3. Wrapping things up, Khalid Duke, the edge rusher, Jawar Jordan, the running back, and Edefuan Ulofashio. I have no idea if that's how that's pronounced, but that is the I forget the.
Congratulations, you're a Bengal. You're a Bengal.
Yeah. But I think that's just good value here. Jawar Jordan, I think, is a guy that can come in and at the very least provide just some impactful carries while Joe Mixon and Chase Brown are getting rest. Just another guy to have in that rotation. Joe Mixon is also a potential cut candidate. So addressing the running back position was important to us. All in all, though, for this draft, I think the Bengals, they just had a down year. Like, they have the quarterback, they have the receiver. I still think they have some really solid defense pieces. DJ Turner had a good rookie year. I forget the other kid from Michigan that they drafted 2 years ago. Dax Hill, that's right. He had a good year out at safety, and Logan Wilson also is still a really solid player, and Trey Hendrickson is still a really good edge rusher. Like, they have most of the pieces in place. I think they just had a down year. This offense did what it normally does, and it had a slow start to the season. And kind of right when they started to pick things up, Joe Burrow got hurt for the year. So I really like what they have going for them. I think this draft class is going to really be focused around just kind of improving the supporting cast and making those players better. So that way the Jamar Chases of this team can go and make the plays that they need to go win a Super Bowl.
Yep, I agree.
So let's go ahead and wrap this one up here. Excuse me. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on what you thought of this Bengals 7-round mock draft. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you do differently? And on that, we'll see you guys next time.